Hello friends, and welcome to the Cozy Chaotic, my little corner of the internet and also the little corner of my apartment. I'm gonna be honest with you all, it has been a very rough week. For many reasons, and I know many of you found this channel because of my morning routine of a writer video, and I really want to make an evening routine video and was planning on doing that today. But I'm gonna just admit to myself right now, I am not up to it. For those who have been here, who are familiar with the channel, you probably know that I have health issues, and whether it's as a result of that or a separate thing entirely, I also struggle a lot with my mental health. It's just a reality of my life, and I'm okay with it for the most part. So I was thinking about what kind of sit-down video I could make that felt particularly relevant and that people on this channel might be interested in. And it got me thinking about my very favorite creator, CozyK. She has this one video that I really love that's a list of cozy games to help get you out of a mental health rut. And while I do love cozy gaming, I'm more of a ADHD hobby hopper who's tried a little bit of everything. And so while I am sitting here in a rut of my own of kinds, I was thinking about the different hobbies that help get me through the day, and I thought I would share that list with all of you. I am a firm believer that hobbies are an essential part of a healthy life for anyone. But when I'm particularly depressed, down, or anxious, they're more important than ever. They remind me of the joy that fills my life. They motivate me. Sometimes they're the thing that gets me out of bed when I might be struggling otherwise. I do want to preface the list by saying that this is no way a replacement for proper mental health care or therapy, but I do think it's valuable, so let's get into it. I've arranged this list into 3 categories based on the energy level required to complete them. Of course, that energy level is a little bit subjective. It takes me a lot of energy to try and knit something, but if you're really good at knitting, it might be easy and comforting. So bear that in mind, and we're gonna start with our list of ideas for when you might be struggling, but you have relatively high amount of energy. So I know what you might be thinking. I'm feeling down and I have high energy. Doesn't sound realistic. But for me, this list of activities is really for those days where I might be feeling dispirited, overwhelmed, distracted. And what I really need to do to get past that is throw myself into a distracting activity that takes up a lot of my time and energy, but also brings me a lot of joy. First on this list is something that I definitely will not be doing today, and it is physical activities, particularly those that make you feel beautiful and strong. For me, that's yoga, Pilates, dancing. I started taking ballet classes in my 20s, and it has been such an affirming and positive experience for me. And I like to make a whole day of it. I like to get dressed up all cute, motivated, maybe watching some motivational videos beforehand. Move my body in a way that reminds me how much I love it and how much it continues to serve me. Another idea is baking, and I admittedly don't do this that much because I feel like I always end up with a giant pan of brownies and don't know what to do with it. But let's be real, it's the ultimate cozy activity. You get to put on an apron, turn on some music, take a process from beginning to end, and then at the very end you have something delicious that you get to eat that comes out of it. You can even bust out some icing and start decorating, something like cupcakes. Cupcakes will not cure depression, but they certainly might help get through the day. Then, you know I had to mention it. It is kind of the core of this channel, writing. I am a professional writer. I'm also working on a novel for fun, but I find that both of those things are really difficult when I'm struggling with my mental health. But writing itself is actually a very refreshing and rejuvenating activity for me. I just need to take the pressure off of myself. So if you're not a big writer, just try your hand at something silly and fun. You can find some great prompts online. You can pour your emotions out with some poetry. Forget all those essays you've written in the past. Writing as a hobby should be fun and it should not be a chore. And if you are a writer, this is your chance to cut loose. Don't worry about being good. Write that fan fiction, write that scene that is pure wish fulfillment. It will make you better at your craft, and it'll be a great time. Speaking of a great time, we have miniature building. I've made 3 miniatures at this point, and I would love to do more. It is just the coziest activity. If you loved doll houses growing up, This is your chance to assemble a scene, a beautiful place. I have a writing desk, a street, a train. The first one I ever made actually was a house, which I feel like is my little bit of wish fulfillment. If we're not going to be able to afford a house these days, at least we can build our dream miniature one. And then when you're done, you get to display it. You get to see it every single day and let it bring you joy. It's simple enough that I could do it without having this huge learning curve, but also complex enough that it took a lot of time and effort and full concentration. Speaking of higher effort, this next one is not like a do in a day kind of hobby. This last year, I got into fish keeping. So I set up a fish tank, went and bought all the right supplies, picked out which plants would go together, what different livestock can go together in the tank. It was a lot to think about. I had to think about the water quality, the different levels of pH, and what animals can go well together, how often I'd be able to do water changes. But honestly, it was a great excuse to throw myself into this research, really hyperfixate on a specific topic, and it did make me feel better. And out of the deal, I got this gorgeous tank. There are certainly easier ways to do it too. You could just do a small shrimp tank. You could set up one that just has plants. It doesn't have to be a huge complex endeavor. It just might be if you're thinking about getting live animals. Now that the tank is all set up and settled, I would say at this point it's actually a low energy hobby in that every day I get to wake up, feed the fish, I can watch the fish, which is incredibly low energy. Things like water changes, trimming are fairly easy, but very rewarding to do. Anyways, I thought it was something I haven't seen on lists before that I personally have done and found really cozy, so thought I'd let you know. And then lastly, we have trivia. I am on a trivia team, or I guess really I have a group of friends that goes to play trivia sometimes. We're casual, we're not the best, but we're not horrible either. It's competitive in a way that's very distracting, you're learning new things. If you have a team, then you're going out with friends, and I know when you're in a mental health rut, you might not want to see other people. There are plenty of trivia games online and different books, so you can look into that as well. But sometimes we do need to get out of the house to feel better, and I think trivia is a great option for that. Moving on to the medium energy category. These are for those days where you are properly struggling. You might not be able to leave the house or do anything that's super physically demanding in any way, but you might still have a couple spoons left, and getting up and focusing on something at all might be helpful. I have many, many days like this, and my first go-to is journaling. And I know, I already said writing in the other category. This is like a little bit of a writing channel. But I think journaling can be good on days you have even less energy and motivation because you really don't have to be creative with it. You can just brain dump onto a piece of paper, write anything and everything you're thinking, and that's still valuable. Most of the times for me, writing is a creative act, but sometimes, honestly, it's just putting my thoughts onto paper. Journaling in this way can be incredibly cathartic, and also, I find it really helpful to look back on later. Those times that I've pushed myself to journal when I'm at a low point are now also moments I can look back on and see how far I've come. And also, it's really helpful for identifying trends. If you're feeling particularly poorly at specific times or when specific things are happening in your life. I know when I'm at the top of the world, I feel like I have never been depressed ever. And when I'm at a low point, I feel like I've been there my entire life. So it's good to be able to look through old journal entries and see things get better and also validate where you are right now. The next one is also pretty similar to something from the list above, but I do think once again that there's a significant difference, and it is Lego sets. Lego has released all these cutesy, cozy Lego sets lately. I have this adorable botanical one, I have a bonsai tree. Once again, it's a thing you assemble and then get to display and feel really proud of. But I do think it takes less energy than miniatures in that you are strictly assembling blocks together. Miniatures can involve a lot of cutting, some like low-level woodworking. It requires this precision and gluing. Legos are all meant to fit together, and you're just clicking things in place. And if you do it wrong, you just take it out and do it again. It makes me feel accomplished, but also it's kind of hard to fail at some of these Lego sets, so that's good for me. Another thing done with your hands is textile crafts. That's, knitting, sewing, embroidery. I can't touch too much on these because I personally am not good at them. But I think any sort of craft that you're doing something with your hands can be very grounding. And once again, you get that satisfaction of having a finished product and that you created something. A new hobby I just started was letter writing. I've said before on this channel that I want to get a pen pal eventually. Honestly, I'm a little bit anxious about it. I find that when I'm in a mental health rut, my social skills drop to like 0, and writing really helps with that. It gives me the time to think about what I'm saying and really process everything. If I mess up, I can cross something out and start again. It's a no pressure way to have that socialization and conversation. You can find a pen pal online, you can reach out to one of your friends and see if they'd be okay with receiving a letter, or you can just write a letter to your future self. The thing that I think makes this hobby really fun is that there are so many ways to decorate letters. You can add stickers, washi tape, you can use all kinds of stationery, you can write out calligraphy. I recently got a wax seal kit, which basically you get all these different color melts, and you drop them into what's a little almost like hand-sized boiler, but it's really fun because you can combine different colors, and then you pour it out, you do your little stamp, you can personalize any kind of stamp, and it just makes the most beautiful seals for letters. Even if you want to just put stickers onto a blank card and do the seals, I think that itself is really fun. And last on the medium list is board games. I love board games. There's something about the competition, the challenge, the puzzles, and you might be shocked to learn that not all board games require other people. One of my very favorite board games is called Cascadia. It's a tile-laying game themed after the Pacific Northwest, and it has these beautiful illustrations. And you can play it entirely alone. You're just trying to get the highest score you possibly can by laying tiles in a specific way. It has that tactile element, that puzzle element. I love it, and I am looking for more, so if you know any other great solo board games, let me know in the comments. Finally, we are on the third category, and this is those low energy days. These look different for everybody. They also vary a lot. I don't want to tell you that every day you're feeling bad, you should also be able to do a craft, because that's just not true. Some days I'm hardly able to do anything at all, and that is okay. But if focusing on a hobby would be helpful for you at that time, there are many you can do, either from the comfort of your bed, from your couch. And the first one I want to talk about is reading. I actually just did a video where I took the entire day off of work just to read, and it was so refreshing. It does require some concentration and focus, but I didn't have to necessarily get up, go around a lot. I could pick stories that were particularly comforting to me. So maybe reread an old favorite or pick something in a genre that's pretty predictable. Like, I love romance books. In my vlog, I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I definitely would recommend it. But if that is too much for you, I cannot recommend audiobooks enough. I don't know why I didn't listen to audiobooks before. I was just kind of a snob on how you're supposed to read, but oh my gosh, those days where I'm lying in bed and I don't have the focus to read or the energy to get up, just being able to turn on an audiobook and listen to it, incredible. They're also great if you get visually overstimulated pretty easily. My go-to on bad mental health days is to binge watch TV, which is fine, but sometimes after a while, all that blue light really gets to me and I start to feel horrible. With an audiobook, you can close your eyes and just listen. I cannot vouch for them enough. Though, the next thing on my list actually is watch your comfort shows. My comfort show of all comfort shows is Bob's Burgers. Also, a lot of different kids' cartoons. I just love animation. I find that it's predictable enough with enough variety for my neurodivergent brain, but there is absolutely no shame in turning on a show, even if you've seen it a million times before, and getting cozy and watching it. Maybe you'll notice something new this time. The next one has been talked about quite a lot, but it is cozy gaming. I am so glad that this is becoming a trend, or at least like a resurged niche in gaming. I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking that gaming is something you have to be good at, or that you're not doing it right if you're not playing games that are particularly violent. But oh my gosh, right now my boyfriend and I are playing the Untitled Goose Game, and the whole premise is just that both of us are geese in this beautifully drawn town wreaking havoc. We're menaces. Some cozy games take a lot of concentration, and some really don't take that much. I don't think there's any shame in getting a game that is typically targeted towards kids because I find those ones are still super enjoyable. Also, if you play on the cozy game kind of console of choice, the Switch, you can play it in bed. Win-win. Next, I have felting. And I know I already talked about textile crafts, but I think felting gets to fall into the low energy category because the learning curve isn't nearly as steep. You're basically taking little bundles of felt and then just stabbing at them until they become a cute shape. I created this capybara while watching TV, and I am not a particularly artistically inclined person, but I think you turned out so cute. The only thing I will say is that you're basically stabbing it into shape, and I did stab my hands multiple times with the little needle, so maybe get a hard surface or just be better at it than I am. Then we have nail painting. I've never been somebody that frequently was going to get my nails done, but recently I've learned how to do them myself. I bought a pretty cheap UV light, gel polish, and once you get a hang of it, it's a pretty simple, easy thing you can do, and it just makes me feel very put together to have painted nails. Some people go above and beyond by drawing on little flowers, doing different designs. I am not there yet. I just paint them a color, and sometimes I do it in bed or on the couch. Similarly, coloring. You might remember a few years back, adult coloring books were huge. Everybody had them, and I will say, I don't personally like them. I mean, I like them in concept. I think it's a great mindfulness activity, but coloring within lines both is pretty difficult for me and doesn't feel super fulfilling. It feels pretty tedious. But lately I learned that I can color on my iPad. I made my own Pikachu and Van Gogh's gray felt hat. When you draw digitally, there's often a lot of assistive tools that can help you make your line straight, make the coloring tool bigger so that you don't feel like you have to be doing it for a super long amount of time. And even though, like I said, I am not artistically inclined, I think it turned out pretty good. And honestly, it was just very satisfying to do. Speaking of satisfying, maybe this is just because I'm a writer, but I love word games. Give me Scrabble, give me Bananagrams, give me like the Game Pigeon games. I send those to people all the time. I think they're super annoyed with me. But I think mobile word games are such a great distraction that you can do anywhere, and also they feel very fulfilling. I feel so smart when I complete my Wordle. There's one in particular that I really love, and this is obviously not sponsored or affiliated or anything like that, but it's called Gubbins. I discovered it because I'm a pretty big Vlogbrothers fan and they were involved with this game in some way. But you're basically trying to assemble different words, and they have these things called gubbins that can be either good or bad. So they could help you in one way, giving you like ing tiles, or they could hurt you in some way by removing all the vowels in a row. That is definitely a cozy, chaotic game if there ever was one. It has very vibey music. I really love the animation, and the best part, there is no ads. That said, in the free version, you only get to play once a day, but I actually think that's better. Like, I like the fact that I can only choose to do this once a day, so I don't get burnt out in it. I'm always looking forward to doing my daily gubbins and I don't get like overly distracted with it. And that brings us to our very last hobby, which might not seem like a hobby on the surface. When I am at my lowest of low, stuck in bed, I like to research random topics and just allow myself to fall down the rabbit hole. Why not learn more about a historical event, conspiracy theory, a type of bug? The internet offers so many resources to learn new things and explore, and I feel like a lot of the times I use them in the wrong way. When I'm feeling bad, I'm tempted to Google symptoms, but that is not helpful, and instead you could be Googling bugs. Hyperfixation can be such a gift. I think after going to school for so long and being told what I needed to learn, there's something so satisfying about laying in my bed and just driving my learning purely based on what interests me and knowing at any moment I can just pick something else. I guess that hobby is acquiring knowledge. I hate to say it, but that brings us to the very end of our list. If you're looking for more videos to watch, you can check out some of my reading or writing vlogs. The last reading one actually didn't get very many views, so I would really appreciate it. You can like, comment, subscribe to help a small channel out. Let me know if you like seeing videos like this. I know a lot of people might be purely here for the writing content, and if I only made stuff like that, it would probably be easier for me to get a lot of views, but Honestly, this feels more authentic to me. What hobbies do you have? Do you pick different ones depending on how many spoons you have that day? Let me know and know that you're helping a small channel out. With that, thank you so much, and I'll see you real soon.